This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life, where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. I'm Jake, your host, and as we say, our whole goal here is to help you embrace life where you live right here in North Georgia. And we're at one of those places today. One of our focuses is to try to help you get some exposure and engagement with things that are in our local community, the North Georgia region. Some of the things that you've never heard of, some of the things that you might be familiar with. I think this is probably the former. I think there's, for those of you watching on YouTube, unfortunately, we are not at Stonehenge. It would be awesome. The man to my right is not going to start talking in a Gaelic accent, and there is not going to be a flock of sheep running behind us at any point in the near future. We are at what is called America's Stonehenge, the Georgia Guidestones. We're in Elberton, Georgia, and Elberton is just south of the South Carolina line, maybe an hour, 45 minutes or so, give or take, from Atlanta. And if you've not been here, I will tell you it's a refreshing drive out of the normal Atlanta suburban environment. There's a bunch of cow fields, and it was a little recharging my soul driving out here this morning. The man to my right is Chris Kubis. Chris is the Executive Vice President of the granite industry here in Elberton. He is somebody that I connected with to try to get somebody that knows a little bit more than what you can find on the internet as related to the Guidestones, which are behind me. This is not a picture behind us. This is to scale, an actual granite monument that resembles Stonehenge right here in North Georgia. So, Chris, thanks for coming out, and especially for being out this early in the morning. We've got a great morning here, so we'll go ahead and get started. You just give us a little bit of history of you, how you got to Elberton, and what your involvement is in the granite industry here.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. I've been here in Elberton probably for about 24 years now.
Okay.
Actually, originally from Southern California. I was in the military after high school, and ended up down in South Georgia at a military base down there. I was a firefighter by trade, and worked down there at that military base for just a short period of time, and then transitioned to Athens, Clark County, Georgia, which is about 30 miles from where we're currently sitting.
Okay.
Athens is the college town where the University of Georgia is. Mm-hmm. And I worked as a city firefighter for Athens for about 20 years. During that time when we moved up to this area, my wife was transferred to Elberton. And so that's how we ended up here. Mm-hmm. And we've lived here in Elberton for that entire time.
And I'm going to take a wild guess. Elberton has probably not changed much in that time.
Elberton's not seen a lot of significantly big changes.
Yeah.
Little changes here and there, but overall it's pretty much remained the same, yes.
Yeah. If it really was, I'm not making light of it. When I was driving out here, it was very refreshing. It's just, you kind of, I don't want to say go back in time a little bit, but you can tell it's a quiet area. It's a small town feel for sure. So if you get a chance, it's worth just the drive just to get out here. But as you can see behind us, there's a little bit more to see than just cow fields and an open road. So the monuments behind us, there is a lot of intrigue, certainly some mystery. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. I remember when I came across the Guidestones first a few years ago. In one sense, it kind of gives you the willies a little bit of what it is, but the other sense, it's, as you and I were talking, when you talk about just the feat itself of creating something like this, it's not unlike the awe that someone would have, standing at Stonehenge. Obviously smaller than Stonehenge. The monuments behind us are over 19 feet tall. I think it was, when I said it was online, it was like 283,000 pounds or something insane like that.
Yes.
I mean, how do you move something like that? And I'm looking at it, and I've got some construction background, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what are the footers like under these things? It's like, I can't, the more I look at them, the more I'm like, okay, so you've got giant masses of granite that all appear to be exactly the same as far as their size and scope which is amazing to begin with. You've got them sitting up, still all positioned correctly. So that tells you somebody knew their engineering to get the footers right. And this is, 40 years ago that this was put up. And then it's astronomically aligned.
Yes.
I mean, it's you can see the sun is rising over, if you're watching online, rising over my right shoulder here. And you can see right behind us, there's a slit that's in the middle stone, I assume for some sort of solar something. I didn't get that far into the weeds as far as investigating all of the alignment things, but can you talk a little bit about that, just as far as for a lot of people when they pass by something like this, you kind of look at it, take a picture, and you move on. But like, this is amazing. This is, I mean, genuinely an amazing thing that we have here in North Georgia.
I would agree. I definitely like to think that this is something very unique, and I think Elberton and Elbert County is lucky to have this here. As you said, it is very amazing to think about the size of this thing and what went into getting it to where it is today. You mentioned the engineering of putting it up. The stones are very, very heavy. Our granite generally is weighed out at about 180 pounds per cubic foot. That's
Wow.
generally how we weigh our granite here.
And this is Elberton granite.
This is Elberton granite. This was quarried here at a local quarry here in Elbert County, and then transported up here. You mentioned, like I said, the foundation and why these things are still standing like they are. The gentleman that actually envisioned this whole project, he had all of the foundation requirements already laid out and worked with the local manufacturer. And this thing is actually sitting, if you notice, it's sitting on a little bit of a rise from where we're sitting right now. That's because there's about 4 feet of reinforced concrete below it.
What?
Yes. He wanted to ensure that this thing would stay standing
Oh my gosh.
for centuries.
Yeah.
So the concrete has rebar running up through it, and then it has steel pins that run up into the bottom of the stones.
Wow.
That it's anchored down, and then given the fact that we're sitting on a vein of granite here in Elberton, that is about 35 miles long, it's about 6 miles wide, and it's about 2 to 3 miles in solid rock depth.
Oh my gosh.
Below where we're sitting. This thing is not going anywhere.
Yeah. Take that, Stone Mountain.
Yes, and that's that's one of the things about why he wanted to come out here and do this, is because he knew that this area had those properties, and that if he erected a monument, that it would be here to last for generations.
So for those who are not familiar with just kind of some of the mystery behind this, so the story almost starts like a bad bar joke. Like a guy walks into a bar and says to the bartender, "How much is drink?" And the bartender says, "I don't feel like it, so it's $47,000." And the guy says, "Do you take Visa?" That's the general gist. A guy walks in, he has these plans for something that is wildly out of sight from a normal scope of a granite project. I mean, and the guy that he walks in and talks to, his name was Joe Fenley. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So Joe looks at the scope, and what the guy's sharing basically gives him some obscene number. I mean, I don't know do you know what it actually was?
We know around
Okay.
what it was. It was close to, I think, about $100,000 at the time.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, this was 1978, somewhere in that time frame. So, this was a large sum of money for a granite monument. In fact, I don't think that they had done anything this large here in Elberton before. And obviously, the money was an indication of, is this guy serious or not? Right. When I give him this figure. Is this guy really understand what it's going to cost to do this? And evidently he did, because Mr. Finley told him, he said, well, before I would even consider working on this, I would have to have some way to be paid. And the guy said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go open a bank account and I'll deposit money in the bank account and you can make draws against it. And Mr. Finley thought, oh, well, that'll be the end of him. I won't ever see him again. So he sent him down to the local banker here in town. And the guy did open a bank account, and he did deposit the money in the bank. The interesting thing about all of that is the gentleman would not give his real name. All right, he called himself R.C. Christian, and when he went to the bank, the banker knew that was not his real name, and he confirmed that was just a pseudonym that he was using.
Yeah.
The banker told him, he said, I cannot open a bank account unless I have your real name. He said, I have to have some information. So the gentleman, Mr. Christian, agreed and gave the banker the information that he wanted. So the banker actually knew his real name and the information about him. However, they made a deal that once the business transactions were completed, that all of the banking records related to this transaction were to be destroyed.
Wow.
And, this was back in 78, 79, somewhere in that time frame. So, that was back when they could still kind of do that.
Yeah, take
stuff.
that, IRS.
Yes. They didn't have computers. They weren't keeping that stuff. It was all on paper. So, as far as we know, the banker did exactly what was instructed. Mm-hmm. And he is actually the only one that really knew the true identity of Mr. Christian.
I told you there was mystery. The other thing that I had read was that when this mystery guy, R.C. Christian, shows up, he's not only got the plans, but he had said this was about 2 decades in the making, forming, that this was something that whoever, him and his associates, who he obviously didn't name, they had taken almost 20 years to figure out the scope of this, what to put on it. It's got 12 languages. Mm-hmm. So we've got the same inscription in 12 different languages. And so obviously there was more than one session of roundtable committee meetings on that sort of thing. But this was not just something that, they decided they were going to get together and 90 days later they bring them these blueprints.
No, I don't think so. He called himself part of a group of concerned Americans. That's what the term he used. He actually wrote an accompanying book called Common Sense. Mm-hmm. It's about the Guidestones. Mm-hmm. And in there he talks about that very fact that they were a group of concerned American citizens who wanted to make sure that that their message was left for people in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling my wife's one of the people that have never heard of the Guidestones, and so I was sharing with her a little bit this week about coming up here and speaking with you, and she's like, the guide what? And so I said it's kind of like if you were going to leave something for society to start over again, and you wanted to make sure that something was able to stand the test of time, the elements, and I kind of joked with her, but halfway joking, nuclear fallout, something like that. These granite stones aren't going anywhere. Everybody else may. I think that's some of the people who see this as a footprint of, the Illuminati or the Freemasons or just some of those conspiracy theory groups that this is clearly they're doing. That's not necessarily the case. This was seemingly a smaller group of people, like you said, that there were concerned Americans at the time. You can look up in your history books just kind of what was going on in the mid to late 70s as far as geopolitical environment, some of the things going on overseas. And so there were some legitimate concerns at the time for something like this. I don't know, just the fact that we have this here in Georgia, and people come from all over the country to see this.
That's correct, yeah. I can come up here if it's good weather, and even when it's not good weather, you can come up here and there'll be any number of people here, not just from Georgia, but from neighboring states, from across the country, and from around the world. It's not uncommon to meet people from other countries that are here. The Guidestones really has a following to itself. Mm-hmm. It's very, very big in the internet world, and that's how most people find it. People come here, and it's part of their bucket list of things that they want to see when they get to America. And they actually do come here just to see the Guidestones. I've encountered people from Australia. I've encountered people from all over Europe, down in South America, just all kinds of people have come here to see it, and they do regularly. I'm actually surprised that we don't have anybody here yet this morning.
and that's why we got out here at 7:00 in the morning. We figured everybody else is getting their coffee right now that's planning to get here this morning.
Yeah, because it is like you said earlier, it's not just something you stumble across. You really have to want to get here.
Yes.
We're 30 miles off the interstate right here, down 2-lane roads to actually get to where we're at. We're 30 miles off the interstate. We're 30 miles from Athens. So you just don't actually just show up here. You're actually going to have to want to come here to see this thing, which I think has kind of helped it to remain somewhat like it has always been.
Yeah.
Is just because we are so rural right here.
Yeah.
The stones itself obviously are going to change incredibly slow over the centuries, but the area has not built up. There's really not much going on here that wasn't going on when it was originally put up, and that's just due to the nature of being out here in the country.
Yep, and it's not the same, but for those of you coming out, so you're driving through rural Georgia, as rural can be. You make a left, and then it's there, right? I mean, it's right in front of you, the crest of this little hill. And the only experience that I can think of that it was similar to this when I pulled in this morning, because you just kind of have that, oh my gosh, there it is, was the first time I saw the Eiffel Tower in Paris. A friend of mine lives in France, and he says everybody has the same reaction the first time they see the Eiffel Tower. And everybody says almost verbatim the same words. I didn't realize it was that big. And because you round the corner of the surrounding buildings, and then there it is, and you just put your chin up and your head back, and you're staring at something that you've seen a million times in movies, and it's just completely different in person. So I would highly recommend you, because you're not going to be stuck in traffic, getting out here. For some of us, it would do us good to get out of traffic a little more. I did want to talk about, has anybody theorized any reason for the messages that are on? You think of the Ten Commandments, and when you look at it, just because of what it is and how it's done. Charlton Heston is nowhere around us, but you kind of expect him to be reading off the Ten Commandments. Is there any prevailing theories on why these instructions?
Well, the wording that's on it was actually written by Mr. Christian and his group. He already had that laid out when he got here. It's nothing that we developed and did here in Elberton. The only thing we actually did was manufacture the stones. Everything else about this monument, Mr. Christian had already laid out. Everything from the wording to the astrological features and the alignment, he had all of that already worked out, from what I'm told. But the wording, that is their wording. That is something they came up with for whatever reason they felt that it was important. He always referred to it as a guide to humanity, or a guide for humanity. People read it and they take away different things from it, but ultimately I think he was just trying to leave something for future generations to refer back to.
One of my favorite things on here is to avoid petty laws and useless officials. And I think of certain government agencies that require taxes to be paid and stuff like that. The other thing that I love, it says balance personal rights with social duties, which I take to mean there are no free lunches. But it's things like that. There's some things that might make you feel uncomfortable, or just kind of turn your head a little bit. And then there's some things that are, I don't want to say comical, but are very common sense, that frankly are probably very good instructions for us to consider in this day and age. One of the things as we talk about people coming from all over the place, everybody kind of knows that Atlanta is becoming the new Hollywood. Any celebrity sightings out here? Have you caught any celebrities out here?
No, not that I'm aware of. This site where we're sitting, this is open 24/7, 365. I mean, there is no time frame here. So anybody can be here at any time of the day or night. We don't keep track of who's here. Yep. There's no sign in. There's no attendant.
There's no gate actually.
There's really nothing here. It's here just for people to come and enjoy. Unfortunately, we have had acts of vandalism to the Guidestones over the years, and so we have had to install some safety measures and some lighting up here. It used to be at night. This was I mean, it was dark up here. There was no lighting, and no, there's nothing. And so it was dark. I've actually, when I first moved here, I can remember coming up here at night, and there was no lighting. It was just completely pitch dark. Since that time, we have had to install lighting and camera systems that are monitored just for the security of the stones.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I like to do in our podcast is what I call a lightning round, where we kind of go off the reservation and it's just a question about something fun and that most people know. Tom Cruise movies.
Okay.
So which is the more iconic Tom Cruise cinematic moment? The final dogfight in Top Gun or making it around the final turn in Days of Thunder?
Both those are pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
those are pretty good. For me, I would have to say the final dogfight in Top Gun.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Top Gun too, because there were so many other great quotes and just taglines in that movie. So that was the right answer. We also would have taken the other one, but we would just disagreed. I would venture to say that the primary goal for the Guidestones here is effectively to preserve this area as it is. Just, we don't want to see a gift shop. We don't want to, there's not a museum coming.
Well, actually, the land here is deeded. The Guidestones kind of own the property. The land was purchased by Mr. Christian from a local individual that actually owns that had owned the land where we are sitting, and they carved off this 5 acres that's right here.
Mm-hmm.
But part of what is in the deed says that there can not be another permanent fixed structure on this property.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why there's nothing here.
Yeah.
Is because of that.
Is there any reason why this particular field? Was there ever any consideration or discussion around that?
It's interesting. I've heard several different stories about that. We are sitting really on the highest point in Elbert County. You can look out around us and see, off into the distance all the way around. One of the things that I had heard was originally when Mr. Christian had come to town and was talking about this monument, that he really was considering having it moved down into South Georgia area,
mm-hmm.
or maybe even further down into Florida, and he wanted it to be on a flat, open plain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think to Stonehenge,
mm-hmm.
it's on Salisbury Plain,
mm-hmm.
and that's the same type of concept. You can see it from a long distance off. And I think that's what he had envisioned, is it being someplace like that where you could see it, maybe from the interstate or something along those lines. However, I don't think he understood. I'm sure he knew the weight that was involved, but when they started talking about transportation, they realized that in '79, because we're rural here, trying to get this to where it needed to be was going to be problematic.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the bridges.
Yeah, you can't go over on you can't take this thing on a bridge.
Some of these little 2-lane bridges that are here in Georgia would not have supported the weight. Plus, just the cost of transportation would have been a huge extra cost that I don't think he factored in. So what I had always been told was that Mr. Christian arranged for a plane to be rented, and he flew around this area and came upon this hilltop and found it, and decided that instead of it being on a flat plain, he was going to put it on a hilltop right here in Elberton, where the transportation would not have been as big of an issue.
Yeah.
And so that's how it ended up here, is from what I'm told, is because of that. And it's worked out rather nicely.
Because of how just massive they are, do you know how they actually got them standing upright and then put the capstone on top? We're talking 40 years ago. We have a completely different. The hydraulic systems we have now are nowhere close to what they had then.
They rented some big. They had big cranes that were here in Elberton because of the granite production.
Okay.
So it lent itself to the fact that they should go here because everything they needed was here to get them erected. But they did bring in a big crane, and that's how they stood them up.
For people that want to find out more information, get directions, anything like that surrounding the Guidestone, what's the easiest way for them to find out?
Really online. Most everything you could want to see or find out about the Guidestones is online. In fact, if you look up and do a search on them, you're going to come up with so much information. A lot of it is going to be conspiracy theory type of information, but there's plenty of pictures of it on there. There's plenty of good information about it. It's well worth coming to see if it at all interests you. Elberton, which is just about 6 or 7 miles to the south of where we're sitting, you can come and see the Granite Museum, and there's some additional information in the museum about the Guidestones, and you can see actually how we quarry granite and how we manufacture granite and what it goes into making the monuments. Elberton's got several nice little restaurants and things down there that people could take advantage of. So it's definitely worth a day trip to come out and see them. And there's some other things to do in the area as well.
So I'll give you. We'll end on this. My personal theory on who sponsored this is whoever owned the gas station down the road, because when you come to Elberton, you will need to get gas, and it's a genius. Probably not anywhere close to the truth, but that was my little theory this morning as I was thinking about it. So.
Yeah, it's really an interesting, just a really interesting anomaly out here in Georgia, and the one thing I'll take and say before about it before we kind of end is. Really, I don't think, while we enjoy seeing it, I think that Mr. Christian's vision was that it really was meant not just for people today, but that its message was meant for people in the future as well. And that's ultimately what he was kind of considering when he made something out of granite on this particular spot and engineered the way it is. He was thinking that this was going to be something that would stand up against the test of time and the elements, and that people 1,000 years from now would still be able to come and read this message and see these stones just the same way that they can go to Stonehenge and see those stones still today. And they're several thousand years old. Yeah.
Pretty amazing that we have something right here in North Georgia that resembles Stonehenge.
It is, absolutely.
So with that, we're going to wrap it up. We thank you for joining us or listening to this just on a podcast. We encourage you to go on a YouTube channel and check it out. Certainly an amazing thing to come actually sit next to and stand beside in person. So I would highly encourage you to make it a field trip with the family. And as Chris said, there's restaurants that aren't too far from here, but certainly this is a great location to just kind of get away for Saturday and see something new that you haven't seen or experienced before. Again, because our whole goal is to help you embrace life where you live. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.